Good evening. Good evening, and welcome to this Hump Day edition of the Angela Ray Show. I hope that you all have had a great day. It is halfway through to the weekend, baby. I don't know what that means anymore, honestly, because my weekends have looked very similar to my weekdays, except for the fact that I don't broadcast the Angela Ray Show. But like many people, I am still sheltering in place and only going out for those essential item errand runs. As always, let me shout out all of our viewers who will be catching this broadcast on the replay. For those of you who will be watching live, come on in the room. Make sure you check into those comments. Let me know where you are watching from on tonight. Of course, last night we had a very lively discussion with America's uh, leading reader ambassador, Dr. Danny Brazel. And tonight we're going to stay in the field of education with a slightly different focus. So, yes, I am excited about my guest on tonight. And again, this is Influencer Week at the Angela Ray Show. Two more episodes remaining, and I can't wait for you to meet all of our guests this week. If you have been missing out on the Angela Ray Show, make sure that you go back and catch some of our previous broadcasts. You can catch those broadcasts both on YouTube as well as on Facebook. If you're in Facebook land or if that is your preferred platform, you can go to facebook.com/the Angela Ray. If you would like to catch us on YouTube, you can go directly to youtube.com/Angela Ray TV. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our Ray of Motivation moment. So last night, our Ray of Motivation moment was all about agreeing to disagree. And I'm very fortunate here at the Angela Ray Show to have some great fans, many of which we sometimes have an after show discussion. And as we were, discussing the Ray of Motivation moment for last night, I realized that I needed a follow-up for today. So my follow-up Ray of Motivation moment, piggybacking off of last night's is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. It is all about perspective, all about perspective. And more importantly, you have to know what your deal breakers are. You have to know what your deal breakers are. And that is in any particular circumstance. When I was giving the example of, people oftentimes in this era of polarizing views, people getting mad and saying, okay, if you feel this way, you can unfriend me. Sometimes there may be things that are trivial that people are unfriending people for. And I hate that Facebook uses that term friend, because many of us only have a handful of true friends. We have lots of associates and acquaintances, but very few friends. But then there are those things that are fundamentally an issue. And if you know exactly what your deal breakers are, you will make sure that you keep the right boundaries in place. And so if it is time to unfriend, unfollow, or unsubscribe from someone in terms of a linear and online relationship, or even blocking someone and cutting them out of your life so that they do not have access to you if their views, their values, or the way they treat you doesn't line up with the vision that you have for your life. You want to make sure that you absolutely positively know what your deal breakers are. And that is your Ray of Motivation moment for this Hump Day edition of the Angela Ray Show. Well, I'm really excited about my guest on tonight. She grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and interestingly enough, she loved storytelling, but had a hard time and struggled to read. Fortunately, her parents were very involved and they were relentless in their efforts to ensure that she would become an avid reader. And today, she is an author, and actually the author of this book, let's see, I didn't practice this part. Kianas Braids. So please help me welcome Chanda Austin. Chanda, thank you so much for being on the Angela Ray Show tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I am just grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. So I guess I'd like to start off. We're still in the midst of this pandemic, and every day the media is updating us with something new. So how have you spent the past 3 to 4 months? Have you been working from home? Have you been, taking up some new hobbies and interest?
So what's interesting, you talked about perspective. I have been working from home since March, and I have done more virtual happy hours, more virtual. I've learned not learned how to cook. I knew how to cook, but I've actually tried a lot of new recipes. I've actually had a chance just to connect with myself in a different space that I know for sure I wouldn't have been able to do before, and actually spending more time with my daughter. So it's been a blessing for me. I've literally been sitting here since March, like March 7th. I work for the school district, so we've been working from home since March.
So you are an educator,
I
and that is such a we're we feel for you all right now as people who aren't educators are making the decisions about whether or not you all have to go back into the classroom in just a few weeks. But talking about your book, Kianas Braids, what inspired you to create this story?
So, a couple of inspirations. One, being an educator for over 20 years, I just did not see a lot of text with Black girls in it, quite frankly. Not only Black girls, but just our stories. And I think our stories are unique. So, when you think about the Black girl experience in our hair, it's a very different experience from other cultures. So, I had an opportunity to work in corporate for about 3 years in at an educational software company, and I just noticed that we were not represented. So the idea was kind of birthed from that experience, and then as a child, my parents owned a beauty supply store. So I've been in a subculture of beauty salons for a very long time, and there is a subculture of Black beauty salons. If you are a Black woman, you know what that is, you know what it sounds like, you know what it feels like. And also, I wanted to put some history in the book because I think a lot of times people think that Black women get their hair braided for its protective styling, which it is, but there's also some history behind it. There's a why, from the African origins all the way over to the transatlantic slave movement. So I wanted to kind of highlight some of those things in this book and just really give Black girls a moment to be celebrated, even though I would love for all ethnicities to purchase the book. But to be honest and transparent with you, my daughter has a different hair texture from mine. And I remember my stylist recommending her get some braids. And it literally changed everything about her. Like, she felt more confident. We didn't have to worry about her hair anymore. And that was about 2 years ago. And we have kept braids in for about 2 years. And it literally kind of changed how she saw herself. So it's a powerful movement. It is a powerful movement for Black women.
Now, you were talking about the culture of beauty salons. Now, I've been in a lot of different beauty salons, but from your perspective, particularly because that is the setting for your story, why don't you share a little bit about some of the characteristics of the Black hair salon?
So, in a Black hair salon, when you walk in there, there's music going, there's food perhaps being eaten, people are talking, there might be a baby running around. For me and my salon, I've been there for 20 years. So, those ladies literally have become a part of my life. They were there when I got married, they were there when I got a divorce, they were there when I had my baby. For every major milestone, my stylist has been there for me. So she's literally like a part of my life. I think they become therapists for you. I always tell her she has the hands that heal. A lot of times you might have a bad day and you walk in there and get your hair done, you feel different. And so I think we have a subculture in the Black community in particular, and I only can speak from that lens because I am a Black woman, that's very different. From probably other ethnicities, as I said before, we we've grown up a lot of times in these salons. I remember, as I said, my father and my uncle, they owned a beauty salon. I mean, a beauty supply store. And I remember growing up, going with my dad to different salons, dropping off product for these different stylists. And like I said, I grew up in that environment. I remember going to college, being in hair shows because of the relationships that my father had formed with some of the distributors. So I've been in that environment for a long time.
So did you ever do Bronner Brothers?
I did not. I did
Okay.
Dudley. And Dudley is one of the few black-owned distributors still now. And my father had this great relationship with one of the distributors, and he would come and ask me to get some of my friends together, and we would do hair shows for them. We would be models. And as a college student, who wouldn't want to get a free hairdo? Who wouldn't want to get a free cut? Who wouldn't
Oh
want to
yeah.
get a free perm?
Mm-hmm.
So, I've had some amazing experiences in the salon. And even my daughter, I remember when my daughter started going, she's a part of that community. Though, as I said before, those were the people that when she was born, they were there. For every birthday, they've been there. She just finished eighth grade graduation. They sent gifts. So that's kind of like they're a part of my family, literally.
Well, I'm very fond of the Dudley brand because they're headquartered in North Carolina,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I've actually had a chance to meet Miss Dudley. I've never met Mr. Dudley, but I had an opportunity to meet Miss Dudley a few times over the years, and she is definitely a lively young lady.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I think it's so much power in their ownership. Like they still own their products and they have not submitted to some of the things that other distributors have. They stay
Hmm.
very true to their brand. Even though it's kind of old school brand, they've stayed true to their brand over the years.
Definitely, and they still write their own checks and they still answer the phone. Like you can call and ask to speak to Miss Eunice Dudley and get her on the phone, which just
Absolutely.
blew me away the first time that I
Absolutely.
called. I was like, okay,
Yep.
so yeah,
I'm just thinking about some of the shows that we did with them. And again, like you said, it's old school, very old school, very family oriented, very, I remember the distributor would pick me and my friend up, take us to get our hair done, and then take us out to dinner afterwards. What college student won't want to do that?
right, definitely. Definitely, because hair was not in my college budget. I used to go to
Exactly.
somebody's dorm room, and then I used to do hair too on the side a little bit.
Oh, okay.
in
Okay.
the in the
Okay.
dorm room. Yeah, I used to look nothing extravagant. I was perming my line sister's hair when we were in college. It's crazy.
Right. And so funny enough, my one of my best friends, so we actually grew up together and we went to college together and we moved here to Atlanta together. Her mother was the stylist and owned the salon. And she picked up that trade. So whenever she did hair, we all had money. It was like a community group of when she did hair, we had money and we would go out, we would eat, we would fill up the car. So yeah, I've been in a salon in a salon space for a very long time, Angela.
Now you have a question from one of our very loyal viewers, Edwin Evans. Can you see that on the screen?
I do, Edwin, the beauty salon and the beauty. Who would be able to keep? You know what's interesting, Edwin? During this COVID season, because I have a relationship with my stylist, I was still paying her every week because I was getting my hair done every week. As you can see, I've kind of converted back over into the natural space. We talk every week. I still talk to her. I think those of us that are true to the community will kind of stay in that space with those people. And she was very grateful for the fact that it was already a budgeted line item for me. So it didn't really make a difference that I was still paying her every week because she was a central worker. So even though I haven't been there since March for real, we still talk. She calls, she checks on me, I check on her. So I do believe we'll still be able to maintain those relationships, especially in the barbershops. I think the barbershop experience is totally different from what happens in the beauty salon. But I do believe we will be able to maintain those relationships post COVID. Thank you for your question.
Now, thinking about the specifics of the book and the I guess, one of the overall themes of the positive image that this young lady has. How important do you think that is, particularly in this era of 2020, Black Lives Matter, and some of the images that we saw prior to all of this happening in terms of film, television, and music videos?
You know what's interesting, Angela? I'm going to use my daughter again. My daughter took her braids out a couple of days ago, and she asked if she can just get her hair washed. She walked around with an afro for about 3 days, and I kind of watched her, and I was like, wow, where's this coming from? Because she has actually tuned into what's happening with the whole Black Lives Matter thing. And I think we're going to see some changes with our little girls, whereas before Beyonce was the standard of beauty for Black women. And a lot of people didn't even know about the Crown Act until this happened. It kind of went to the forefront during this season that we're in, where Black women, our hair has been dehumanized, to a place where there has to be legislation out there to say, I can wear my hair natural, or I can wear my hair braided, or I can wear my hair locked, or I can wear, how many times have we been told as Black women that if you have natural hair that you need to straighten it before you go into the workplace? So I think we're going to start seeing some shifts in the season that we're in, where people are going to hear us very differently and respect and honor our spaces that a lot of times we have to work harder to get in and to stay in. And appearance is just one part of that process. And I know that because being a Black woman, you have probably had to put yourself in spaces where you knew you should have been there, but you still have to fight for your space at the table. And I think the new season that we're in, we have a different voice and we can be unapologetic about it. I've been very unapologetic about this voice when I have the opportunity to say to people. And it's amazing because people who are not of color are literally blown away about this conversation. What do you mean a Crown Act? And I always say, Google it. Google the Crown Act. Google why states had to put something down in a legislative piece to say this is discrimination. This is crazy. This is a God-given right to be able to wear your hair the way you want to wear it. So I think it's going to bring about some tough, uncomfortable conversations that need to happen in order for us to move forward.
Now, I know earlier you were saying that this book you wrote it. It has it's set in the African American hair salon, and while you wrote it specifically to amplify the positive self image of Black girls, you would love for anyone to read the book. What would you like for non-Black young girls, maybe their mothers and their fathers, to take away from this story? Because as I think about being um, maybe not as young as Qiana, but maybe my preteens, one of the books, and it was a very universal theme, but one of the books that I know my crew, we all circulated and read over and over was Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. It
Yeah.
had a pretty universal theme, and they're making it into a movie. So I'm hoping I can audition. Maybe I can play Margaret's mama. I don't know. I'm digressing,
Yes.
but
Yes.
back
Yes.
to the
Yes.
question: what would you like? Because I think that this one is so specific. What would you like for the majority audience to take away from this story?
I want them to take away the history. I've actually had two Caucasian friends to call me and say, I didn't realize this about the origin of braids. I also, on my Facebook page, I've been posting just little things that people probably wouldn't know. For example, the transatlantic slave movement and how the braids tied to the movement of how slaves needed to escape their masters. And there's a book actually called White People Don't. I have to give you the book title, but it's essentially it talks about um, how in our community how we need to respect and honor different things that happen, and it talks about that. It talks about the history of braids. So I think if I was on a platform to say this is what I would want you to take away from it, I would want you to take the history away from it. I need you to understand the depthness of it. I need you to understand when we're fighting for ourselves in places that silence is agreement. When you say to me, I need to straighten my hair to come to an interview, You know, I need people to understand that piece, that is, it's important. It's really important, because I don't know that white women are told the same things that we're told. So a level of understanding, a level of empathy, and just really coming outside of your box and understanding that we have a voice, and this is important. It's an important voice that can't be ignored. I mean, that there are kids who have gotten suspended for wearing their hair in braids or locks, and I mean, we've seen it.
Yeah,
Young man couldn't graduate because he wore his hair in locks. Come on, like, I need you to understand this. And
right.
I have a problem when people say dreadlocks, because there's nothing dreadful about our hair. Everything
Come
about it is
on
beautiful.
now.
Yeah, it's nothing dreadful about it. Nothing is dreadful about it. So when people say it, a lot of times I correct them. It's like a, but yeah, let's correct that language real quick, because it's nothing dreadful about anything that we do, and who we are, and what we gonna be.
And so you were talking about the difference that you noticed when you got braids for your daughter. She's had
Hmm.
braids for about 2 years. Pre-COVID, did she experience people wanting to touch her hair?
Yes. So my
How did
daughter
she handle that?
So my my daughter's a little rebel. My daughter is a little activist, and she went to a school that was very diverse. Not a lot of black girls at her school. So I remember when she first got them, she said, I had, one of my classmates wanted to touch my hair, and she said, I stopped her. Don't touch my hair. And so she's pretty vocal about her space. Like, she's very aware. She's that little kid. Like, she wants to be a civil rights attorney. Like, she's already
Oh,
saying she wants to be a civil rights attorney. She's an entering ninth grader. She'll be a ninth grader in the fall.
wow.
So she sits and she watches all of these shows about law, and so she's very aware of her space, and she's very aware of her purpose too, and she'll check you.
I wonder where she
She'll
got that
check
from.
you. I listen. I laugh because the calls that I got, while she was at this school was, the first year they didn't do enough Black History Month, so she wrote a letter to the principal. The next year she wouldn't stand for the pledge, and I said to the teacher, I said, "Is this where you really want to go?" She doesn't have to stand for the pledge, and she can articulate to me why she wasn't standing for the pledge. So that was more important to me than her following a trend. I need you to understand what is your why. And when she could articulate to me what her why was, I said to the teacher, this is not what you want to do. So let's gracefully move back from this, because what I find, Angela, is that I don't know that I believe that there are racist people. I believe that. But I also believe that people have value systems that align with their belief system. So my belief system says you should stand for the pledge, because if you aren't, you're not a patriot. You don't believe in America. And I said to this white teacher that your value system, you just can't implement that on my child. And I won't allow you to do it. You don't even want to get into the legality of it. So let's, move away from it.
You got another question.
What is next for Qiana?
Yeah, is this going to be a series?
Interesting enough, I am working on two projects. One, Kiana is going to Africa.
Oh,
I
okay
don't.
then.
I have immersed myself in Africa. I like to travel. This is my summer to go to Ghana. Well, that's not going to happen. So I've been immersing myself in the African culture, so that I can create a good background and a good framework for the book. And I'm also
Mhm.
working on an HBCU ABC book that'll probably come out before Qiana goes to Africa, because it's a little easier to do. And I think once you've gone through this process, two things: one, you offer your process to other people. You give back as much as you
Mhm.
can and as often as you can. That's number one. And number two, you take those things and you try to be better. So it took me a while to get this done, but now I know how to do it, and I feel like I can do it. Like, let's get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about the HBCU coloring book. I think that's gonna bring just a different energy. And Angela, what I did with, and I believe in sneak peeks. Like I believe somebody else can take it and do whatever. I didn't. I wanted to highlight some of the smaller HBCUs because. For example, we hear about Spelman all the time, and shout out to Spelman. But what about Stillman in Tuscaloosa? So for my S, I did Stillman. For my M, instead of Morehouse, I did Morris Brown. For my L, instead of Langston, I did Lane. So
Mm-hmm.
to bring a different awareness to some of our smaller HBCUs, and I think this will be kind of a K-12 book. It'll go across a couple of age groups.
Okay.
And just a heightened awareness of HBCUs. I am a proud HBCU graduate twice, and I go super hard for them.
Okay. Edwin has another question for you.
Do you think it's a compliment when non-Black people? I no, I don't, especially knowing what I know now. I don't. I have a problem with it. Just because if you know the origin of braids, you kind of out of order when you put them in your hair as a from a style perspective, because I just feel like that's something we've owned, like that's ours, and I unapologetically say it, like that's ours. Braids are ours. You can have our music, you can have our food, but you can't have our hair. You just can't have it.
So, if when you said that, all for whatever reason, all I could hear was India Ari. I am not my hair. I don't know why. I just heard that song, and so just thinking about Qiana and this book, as well as her going to Africa. Do you think she has a song, and what would it be?
Now, Angela, I don't know. I hear in the back of my mind, as you said, that girls run the world. That has kind of been my
Beyonce.
theme song. Yes.
Okay.
Reason being, I feel like Black women in particular, we have some different obstacles than sometimes Black men do, and even white women. So for every book that gets reposted for me, I mean, it's just such a blessing to see it, because and so let me just kind of shift from the hair to the complexion. Like as a dark skinned Black girl, for growing up, I was called everything from African booty scratcher to you name it. So to see these brown girls holding these books and getting the kind of feedback that I have gotten, job, I'm done. Like the money will come. I'm not even really concerned about it for real. I want to be able to empower little girls. I want little girls to look at this book and see themselves in their book, in this book. One of my girlfriends called me. She said, "Shonda, I'm just not saying this because you're my friend, but I'm saying this because my 2-year-old, when I'm reading a book to her, she's literally patting her hair." So there's some
Oh.
level of awareness for a child who's being read to, and
Hmm.
that's it for me. Like the purpose has been fulfilled.
And so thinking about, what's going on right now in terms of, the pandemic, both that as well as the civil unrest, but specifically the pandemic, particularly because so many people are having to pivot. That's been a go-to word here on the show, but really pivot what they were doing. What do you think is going to be the long-term legacy for authors and influencers who want to empower young people the way that you do?
Go with your passion. Go with what you're passionate about. I will say to you, Angela, passion over profit. Profit will come. If God has given you a passion and a vision to do something, do it. Do it unapologetically. Do it. For me, it's legacy. It's my daughter. Like I don't even I don't think she even realizes what's going on. But at some point, I hope that she does. I want people to do what's passionate, and the money will come, the people will come, the ideas will come. Stay true to your passion. And if your passion means that it can change a community of people, go for it.
Mm,
And typically it does. Most people that have passion, that are passionate about things, it's really about being a change agent. Even if it's changing one person around you, even if it's somebody seeing something different that they didn't see before, work in your passion. And it took me almost 50 years to realize that, but I got it now. I got it now.
And so, for those who may be trying to figure out what that passion is, how would you describe? I mean, I'm one of those who's very fortunate. I think I've always known what my passion was. I'm talking right now. Part of that
Mhm.
passion got me in trouble in elementary school. I would get all like excellent, excellent, satisfactory, very satisfactory. And when it would come to behavior, very talkative in class, won't stop talking no matter where she is moved.
I
And
was that
so,
kid. I was
right.
that kid.
So,
I'm
it,
that adult.
yes. Yeah. Oh, I was that adult too. The last time I was at a corporate job, my last employer, they kept moving me because they thought, oh, well, though that she's friends with this person, maybe if we move her over here. No, I'm gonna make friends wherever I go. So for me, it was easy. But for those who, they just haven't quite figured it out, how would you describe? Because you said it took you a while to kind of zero in on it. How would you describe really plugging in and finding that passion?
You know what, Angela? I have to talk about my walk with God. I have to. And for non-believers, I respect that space that you share, but it really is, it's really a God thing for me. It was really being quiet and letting him really speak to me, and me not ask for so much, but really listen to what he was trying to say to me. And what he said to me is, stop asking for what I've already given you.
Mm,
You-
okay.
So you keep asking for things, and I've already given it to you. And so that's why I say this pandemic has been a blessing for me, because it set me down in a way that I don't think we'll ever have another time in our lifetime where we'll be able to sit like this. Really. I mean, I'll be 47 in October. And yeah, you take vacation, your job give you vacation, but we've really had to sit very differently in this
Hmm.
pandemic. So for me, it was really a movement of God. It was really God saying, I remember it like walking one morning. He said, why you keep asking me for stuff? And I already gave you what you need. That day, everything changed for me.
Mm.
And I had it. I had brunch with a friend, Angela. This book has been sitting on my computer for 5 years. I had brunch with a friend in January, and he had written two books, and he said, what's up with the book? I mean, people have been asking me what's up with the book. And he gave me the young lady's name. That day after I did that walk, I called her. I said, I don't know how far I am with it, but let me look at it. 24 hours, she literally emailed me back with the prototype done. 24 hours.
Wow.
So God said, I gave it to you. Stop asking me for more. I have already given it to you. I don't know how profound that is, but it was simple, but
Oh
yeah.
no, it is profound. I've had many God moments in my life,
Yeah.
and the way you were described this one, walking. I have a friend. She's a filmmaker, Sarah Elizabeth Timmons. I don't know if she's watching tonight. I haven't had a chance to see her in a while, but she was talking about having a walk around a lake at her parents' house, and how just really like I don't even know if she said God, but almost like a God moment where she literally took that experience and made that into her first film. And I remember her telling me before, she was like, oh, I'm going to do this. I was walking around this lake, and I want to say the film is called Lake Effects. I was walking around this lake at my parents' house, and all this stuff came full circle. So I'm going to make this movie. I'm going to go back to Virginia where my parents live, and I'm listening like, okay, because I work in entertainment. I hear people say they're going to make movies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When that thing premiered on Hallmark Channel, I said, oh, I remember the initial conversation. So to your point, yes, I've had several moments like that. And it's interesting to bear witness to other people's moments like that, because that's oftentimes when we get confirmation of things we've been sitting on as well.
Absolutely. Angela, I got to get this charge. I'm sorry. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it
okay.
was simple. It was really simple. And Angela, and it's not a brag, it's a blessing. I have sold almost 600 books.
Oh my gosh. And
Yeah,
that's since
and
May?
since I dropped that link, and
Now what, look, I'm a so that you're not dark. Are you coming? Okay, there you go.
I'm sorry, Angela.
That's
Repeat that
okay.
again.
Oh, I was clarifying, was that since May?
So yeah, I don't want this phone to drop. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I have sold right at 600 copies, and it dropped the second week in June. So to
Oh, so like
see,
in less than 2 months.
yeah, and I knew like the first 50 books would be the first 100 books would be friends, sorors, family members, but to see those numbers, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Thank you, God.
Right.
Thank you, God." I'm sorry, Angela. I don't want
You
this
know
phone to
what?
die
It
on me.
happens. It happens. We're live. As I've told people, everybody is working from home. Everyone is doing things virtually. I often use the example of The View. I watched The View one day, and at the top of the show, Sunny wasn't even on the show because something was up with her internet. And then when they broke and came back to the commercial, then we saw Sunny. A week later, I don't know what was going on with Sunny's internet, but she kept freezing and they kept having to cut away from her when she was talking. And even some of the guests, they've had people, since they are all remote, no one's coming into the studio for interviews. And there have been times I've watched guests and, they're frozen during the interview or whatever. So, that's just one of the
I'm
things
sorry.
that we know. It's just a
Yeah.
part of what we are living with during this time.
And so let me say something else too, Angela, about that. I It has been such a blessing to give the book away. I have given the book away to in several different spaces, and that's been a blessing too. And for me, like I said, the money is one thing, but to be able to give it to teachers, to be able to, excuse me, my daughter went to a private daycare and school up until second grade. I donated some books back to them. That has been powerful. The power of giving back is small, maybe to some people, but for me, it's like I'm able to do this. I'm able to put this book in some more kids' hands. Um, and people are buying books. People are buying books right
Yeah.
now. I'm pretty sure it's because of the space that we're in, and I know my district is going into a virtual, space, and there's some opportunity there for new authors that you can really take advantage of. But to see this book sell the way it has, it's I have just been thanking God, and I go back to that moment when He said to me, "Stop asking for more. I have given you enough." This is my enough, Angela. Like seriously, this is my enough.
Awesome. Well, for all of our viewers, you see on the bottom of the screen, you can connect with Kianas Braids on Instagram and go to the website and snag your 5 copies so that you can spread the word and spread positive images and historical stories set in a beauty shop. That's so
Yeah,
awesome.
our voices have to be heard, guys, unapologetically. They have to be. And I'm learning the power of that. And this is a good time to do it because people want to hear it.
Hmm.
People want to hear our stories. I actually was invited to be a part of a nonprofit board in Denver, and I'm excited about that. And it's about diversity, it's about equity, it's about this voice that we're talking about. And it was based on a purchase from the book. Like the
Oh,
person
wow.
reached out to me and asked me to be a part of this board because of the voice. And
Wow.
we need to let our voices be heard in these spaces.
Amen. Well, Shonda, this has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Um, Listen more, talk less.
Okay. Listen more, talk less. That's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I've
That's right.
often been told that. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening and thank you so much for being on
Thank
the
you so
show.
much for having me on tonight, Angela. I appreciate you.
All right. Have a good night.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye. All right, that is it for this Hump Day edition of the Angela Ray Show. As always, I would like to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror does not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you to go out and be the change. Have a great evening.